In the deep silence of space, far from any known star systems, a smooth silver ship moved slowly. It was shaped like a curved blade and gave off a soft blue glow. This was the Zellery science vessel, named Orana, and it came from a race that believed themselves to be the oldest and most intelligent in the galaxy. The Zellery had seen many worlds and met many species, but today they were heading toward a system they believed held no surprises. The planet called Earth had been studied briefly before. Its signals, old radio waves, and digital noise had reached deep space. To the Zellery, it sounded like confusion, like the noise of a young and foolish race. Their records marked Earth as primitive, a place with people who were still learning to fly beyond their moon. Captain El-Razenth stood in front of the main viewing screen. She was tall and thin, with eyes that shifted color with her thoughts. Around her, the bridge crew watched quietly. As the blue planet came into view, a young officer, Talon, spoke first. "The system is quiet. 1 yellow star, 8 major planets. Only the 3rd planet shows signs of advanced life." Captain Zenth gave a small nod. "Prepare a probe. Send it into orbit. Let us observe them directly." The crew worked quickly. A small probe was launched from the Orana. It was quiet and fast, made to stay hidden. It moved into position above Earth and began to collect images and signals. It watched cities full of movement machines flying in the sky and strange towers reaching into the clouds. "They appear to have developed fusion power," said Talon, looking at the data, "but their space presence is weak. Only a few stations and satellites. Their defenses are old and simple." "As expected," Zenth said calmly, "a noisy but harmless species. Curious but not dangerous, but far from Earth, in the shadow of a large asteroid." Another ship watched silently. The Terran Union warship Resolute did not glow. Its hull was dark and quiet, covered in advanced stealth material. It looked like a shadow given shape. Inside, Commander Natalie Brooks stood on her own bridge, staring at the same planet the Zellery had found. "They sent a probe," her tactical officer said. "His name was Jonah, and he had served with her for 10 years. "I see it," Brooks replied. "They think we can't see them." She turned to the center of the ship, where a dark screen lit up with soft green data lines. A deep voice spoke from the system. "Analyzing alien vessel," said Samson, the ship's AI Zellery design, "lightly armed, science class. Curious but cautious." Brooks nodded slowly. "They think we're still in the dark. Let them look for now. Let's see what they really want." The Resolute made no move. It sat still, hidden, gathering data. For the next few hours, both ships watched the same planet from different shadows, one with pride, the other with silence. On the Orana, the probe suddenly went dark. "We've lost signal," said Talon, his fingers flying over the controls. It was cut, not damaged, removed with precision. Captain Zenth frowned. "Impossible. This species cannot do that." "But they have," Talon said, "and the probe was taken by a drone. We only saw it for a moment. Fast, metallic, not one of their regular satellites." Now there was silence on the Zellery bridge. Something was wrong. "Very wrong. Are we being watched?" Zenth asked. "No signs of any ships," replied another officer. "No known human spacecraft in range." Zenth turned back to the screen. Earth still looked calm, but the feeling in her chest had changed. The humans had noticed their presence, and they had acted with speed and skill. Rook got the probe, Jonah said with a nod. "No signals sent back." "Good. We don't start fights," Brooks said, "but we end them when we must." Samson's voice returned. "The Zellery will now suspect more. They may try again." "Let them," Brooks replied. "We'll be ready." In the darkness of space, 2 ships sat miles apart, separated by silence, but connected by curiosity. One thought it had found a weak and noisy world. The other was waiting, watching, and deciding how loud to speak back. Captain El-Razenth stood. At the center of the Zellery ship Orana, her arms crossed and her mind deep in thought. Around her, the crew moved quickly but quietly. The probe had been taken, and no signal had been sent back. Something was not right. She did not like surprises. "Any word from the probe?" she asked Talon. The young officer at the console shook. His head, no captain, it vanished completely. One moment it was gathering data, the next moment it was gone. No explosion, no drift. Taken, Zenth said softly. But how? We replayed the last image it sent, Talon said. He brought it up on the screen. It was blurry, but a dark shape could be seen rising from Earth orbit. It was fast and smooth, shaped like a bird with wide wings and sharp edges. Zenth looked at the image. That is not a weather satellite. No, Captain Talon agreed. It moved like a war drone. Too advanced for what we expected. Zenth tapped her chin slowly. Perhaps we underestimated them. Still, it could be a lucky shot, a leftover weapon. Or, Talon said carefully, we are not the first ones watching them. Zenth didn't answer. She looked out at the blue planet on the screen. It looked peaceful, covered in clouds and oceans. But maybe the surface hid secrets. On the other side of space, hidden inside an asteroid's shadow, the Terran warship Resolute floated in silence. Its hull was cold and dark, blending into the rock behind it. Inside, Commander Natalie Brooks stood beside the central control table. Any movement from the Zellery ship? She asked. They're quiet, said Jonah. The tactical officer still holding orbit. They might be confused. Let them stay that way, Brooks said. She turned to the screen, where Samson, the AI, displayed a calm, glowing symbol. How long until they try again? Likely within the hour, Samson answered. Their captain is cautious but curious. Brooks nodded. Then we hold position. If they act, again we reveal a little more. Just a little. Back on the Arana, the crew prepared a second probe. This one was smaller and faster, made for stealth. It was launched quietly, hugging the dark side of the planet. This time it tried to avoid detection. For a few minutes, everything worked. The probe slipped through orbit, taking images and listening for signals. Then it saw something strange, a large station floating above the dark side of the Earth. It had no lights, no signs of life, but its shape was clear. It looked like a long black knife stretching across space. The probe zoomed in, trying to understand. Then it stopped working. Another one lost, Talon said, frustration in his voice. Zenth narrowed her eyes. No damage again. No captain. Shut down, blocked or captured. Again, Zenth sat down in her chair. The humans were not what they seemed. Twice now, they had taken her probes, and they had done it with skill. Bring us closer to the moon, she said. If they're watching, they will see us. Let's see if they respond. Slowly, the Arana moved out of orbit and toward the moons. Shadow? It was a risky move. If the humans were hostile, it would put them in range. But Zenth needed answers. On the Resolute, the move was noticed immediately. They're changing position, Jonah said. Brooks looked at the screen. They're showing themselves they want us to notice. Should we engage? Brooks shook her head. Not yet. Let's show them. We're watching Samson. Activating signal response, the AI replied. On the Arana, the bridge lights flickered. Then a message came through. Not on their usual channels. It was direct, precise, and in perfect Zellery language. You are in Terran-monitored space. Please state your purpose. The voice was calm, deep, and clearly artificial. But it was not robotic. It sounded like a person who had seen much and feared little. Did we send that? Talon asked. Zenth stared at the message. No, they did. Their language system is perfect, another officer said. It's better than ours. Zenth stood up slowly. Whoever sent that is no fool. Should we respond? Talon asked. Not yet, Zenth said. Let them speak again. As if hearing her thoughts, the voice returned. Unregistered vessels will be escorted out if no identification is given. This is your only warning. The bridge was silent. The message was not angry. It was calm. But there was no doubt it was a threat. Zenth felt a strange mix of fear and respect. This species had built a machine that could speak like a soldier. A machine with authority. They are not primitive, she said at last. Not at all. Far away. Aboard the Resolute, Brooks listened as Samson finished the message. Do you think they got it? Jonah asked. Brooks smiled. Oh, they got it. They just realized we're not what they thought. The two ships remained still in the dark. One had come with curiosity. The other had waited with patience. And now, a new understanding had begun. The humans had spoken, and they were not silent anymore. Captain Elra Zenth stood in the middle of the Zellery ship's bridge. Her fingers tapped the side of her chair slowly. She watched the dark screen in front of her. The words from the Terran voice still echoed in her mind. "You are in space. Please state your purpose." It had spoken in perfect Zelari. It had known where they were. It had waited until the right moment. She had been wrong about humans. Very wrong. "Any new signals?" she asked. Talon looked at his console. "No, Captain. Just quiet. They haven't moved." "That means they are waiting," she said. "They gave us a chance. Now they watch." She stood and walked slowly to the front window. Earth and its moon were below them. The planet looked soft and bright, but now she knew that it was hiding sharp teeth. "Begin active scans," she said. "We need to find the source of that voice." Talon nodded. A soft hum filled the ship as sensors reached out into the dark. Then something appeared. At first it was only a shadow, a strange shape near the edge of the moon. But as the scan cleared, it revealed more. A ship dotted, floated in silence, half hidden by shadow. Its hull was long and smooth, dark, like space itself. Sharp lines ran along its sides. The front looked like a spear, while its back glowed with soft blue energy. There were no lights, no signs of life, just power dot. It was not a transport. It was not a science ship. It was a warship. Zenth's eyes widened. How did they build this? "Unknown materials," Talon said. "It has no open ports, no engine trails, and it's ... watching us." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human, but it was made to look human. A smooth face, without age or flaw. Its eyes were steady. Its voice came again. "I am Samson. You are approaching a restricted zone." Zenth stepped forward. "I am Captain Elra Zenth of the Zelari vessel. Orana, we are explorers. We mean no harm." Samson tilted his head slightly. Explorers do not hide probes in the dark. Zenth felt a chill. This AI was not like others. It understood more than code. It understood intent. "We were curious," she said carefully. "Your world is marked as primitive. We did not expect a response." "That record is old," Samson replied. "Outdated, incorrect." The image of the ship changed. Now, the full view of the human warship appeared. The markings on its side were strange, letters in old Earth languages, symbols that looked like birds and swords. Some lines looked almost like poetry. Zenth zoomed in. The name was clear: TSV Resolute, Terran Space Vessel. "Their warships carry names like poems," she said softly, "like honor blades." Samson spoke again. "The Resolute is one of many. We are guardians of the Terran Union. We do not seek war, but we will not allow threats to grow unnoticed." Zenth turned to her crew. "Pull back slowly. Let them see we mean peace." Talon nodded and began the retreat. As the Orana moved, the Resolute also shifted. Its front turned slightly to follow the movement, always watching, not attacking, but not turning away either. Zenth took a deep breath. "This ship, ... it speaks for their people, for their power." "It is more than a ship," Talon said. "It is a voice, a warning." Back aboard, the Resolute commander, Natalie Brooks, stood beside the AI core. "They saw us," she said quietly, "and now they understand." "They are leaving," Jonah confirmed, "heading back toward deep space." Brooks nodded. "Good, we've shown enough." "For now," Samson's voice was calm. "They will report what they saw. Others will come. Let them," Brooks said. "They'll come curious like this one, and they'll learn." Jonah turned to her. "Do we let them go without a message?" Brooks smiled faintly. "Samson." "Sending final transmission," Samson said. Orana, the screen flickered once more. Samson's face returned. "You looked at Earth and saw fire. But fire is not only destruction. It is light, it is strength, it is life. Remember that." Then the screen went black dot. No more messages. No more movement. Captain Zenth sat down slowly. "This changes everything," she whispered. "What should we tell the council?" Talon asked. Zenth looked at the stars outside the window. "Tell them we met. Humans, not as children, but as steel that speaks." The Orana turned away from Earth, quietly with respect. The warship Resolute did not follow. It stayed in orbit, silent once again. But the galaxy had heard a new voice, and it would not forget Captain Elra Zenth sat in her private quarters. The lights dim, the stars moving slowly outside her window. She had not spoken since the ship left Earth's orbit. The voice of Samson still echoed in her mind. It was not just the voice. It was the way it spoke, the way it knew. It was not simple programming. It was something more, something alive. A soft knock came from the door. "Enter," she said quietly. Talon stepped inside. He carried a datapad. "Captain, we finished analyzing the signals from the human ship." Zenth nodded, her eyes still on the stars. "And their systems are advanced." "Very advanced," Talon said. "The AI is not just a tool. It commands the ship. It chooses when to speak. It creates language, responds with emotion." Zenth turned to him. "Emotion? You're sure?" "Yes, Captain, we tested it. When you spoke to it, it responded not with cold facts, but with judgment. It weighed your words. It warned us, gave us a second chance." Zenth stood up slowly. She walked to the center of the room, and the ship itself, also strange, Talon said, "Its design is unlike anything we know. It mixes old and new. It has markings from Earth's ancient cultures and systems beyond our scanners. Their hull material, we still do not know what it is." Zenth took the pad from him. Images of the Resolute filled the screen, the sharp lines, the glowing engines, the strange symbols. It was a warship, but it looked like a piece of art, as if it was made not just to fight, but to speak. "They build like they feel," Zenth whispered. "Not just function, but meaning." Talon nodded. "And Captain, there is more. We intercepted a data beam before we left. It was not encrypted." Zenth raised an eyebrow. "A message?" "Yes," Talon said. "They wanted us to hear it." He tapped the pad. A video began to play. It showed the history of Earth. Not all of it, just parts. Great wars, space launches, world unity, and machines working beside humans. It was fast, colorful, loud, and full. Of emotion, Zenth watched it all. The fires of war, the rise of peace, the faces of people. Their pain, their joy, their stubborn will. When it ended, she sat back down. "They sent this to us on purpose." "Yes, they wanted us to know who they are, not just what they can do." Zenth closed her eyes. "We believed they were still crawling, but they have been standing for a long time. We just didn't look close enough." Talon was quiet. Then he said, "Do you think others will listen when we tell them?" "Some will laugh," Zenth said. "Some will be afraid. But the wise ones will listen. They'll understand what we saw." In the crew commons, the rest of the Zellery team was also watching the video. Again and again, the images of humans walking. On the moon, the launch of the first Starship, the signing of peace after centuries of war. "They are not perfect," one officer said, "but they don't give up." Another said, "Their machines are strong, but their stories are stronger." Even those who first laughed at Earth were now silent. They had seen a people shaped by struggle, forged in conflict, but choosing peace, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. On the Resolute, Commander Brooks was in her command seat. She watched the Zellery ship move further into deep space. No weapons had been fired, no battle had taken place, but a message had been sent, and it had been heard. "You think they'll come back?" Jonah asked beside her. "Maybe," Brooks said, "but not as spies. Next time, it might be as guests." Samson's voice filled the bridge. They were shocked, but not angry. "That is a good sign." Brooks nodded. "They needed to see who we are, not just what we built." The crew returned to their normal duties, but something had changed. They knew what had happened was important. Not a battle, but something else. A first step. Back in her quarters, Zenth sent a message to her homeworld. Her voice was calm, but strong. "To the Council," she said, "we found Earth. It is not as we believed. The humans are not simple. They are not lost. They are not blind. They are something else. They have seen darkness and still choose light. They are building something new. Not a weapon, not a metaphor, a purpose." She ended the message and looked out the window again. The stars looked different now. "I saw a warship speak," she said softly, "and I listened." In the dark of space, the Arana continued its journey, but its crew was no longer the same. They had seen the true face of a species they once called primitive, and now they carried that truth with them across the stars. The Zellery ship Arana moved slowly through deep space. Captain Elra Zenth stood on the bridge, looking at the stars ahead. Behind her, The crew was quiet. Each of them still thought about what they had seen around Earth, the human ships. The calm voice of the AI named Samson. The message filled with fire and hope. It had all changed them. Zenth touched the controls and brought up a new message from the Terran Union. It had come just hours ago. It was not a warning, it was an offer. This message is for the Zelri ship Arana. We invite you to observe more. A gift of truth, if you choose to see it. Talon stepped closer. Captain, are we going to accept? Zenth nodded. Yes. Whatever they want to show us, we will see it. The crew watched as the message unlocked a file. A large stream of images, sound, and text began to play across their screens. It was a history, not a record made for war, but a memory shared by a people who had fought hard to survive. The first image was of fire, not the fire of stars, but of war. Earth burned in many places. Cities were broken. Soldiers fought in streets, in skies, in space. Old machines flew across the sky. Tanks rolled over broken roads. Missiles flew. And still, the people did not give up. This is from their past, Talon said. They nearly destroyed themselves. And yet, Zenth whispered, they lived. The next image showed humans building again, lifting pieces of steel with their hands, using machines to raise towers. They worked side by side. Their faces were tired but hopeful. Then came the launch. A great ship rising from the blue planet, fire pouring from its engines, a flag painted on its side, people cheering below, the first step into the stars. They pushed into space after war, Zenth said, not for conquest, but for peace. The story continued. New stations in orbit. A moon base, then Mars. The colonies grew. Some failed. Others thrived. Each time they fell, they stood again. One image showed a woman with gray hair giving a speech. Behind her was the symbol of the Terran Union. She spoke of unity, of the end of borders on Earth, of a world that finally saw itself as one. Looked at the captain. They united their planet. Zenth nodded slowly. Yes, few species have done that, even fewer after such destruction. More images came, machines working with humans, AI learning beside children, robots farming, flying ambulances, cities in the clouds, and always people talking, helping, learning. Then came the new ships, sleek, fast, powerful, designed for both beauty and strength. They carried names that meant something, names from their myths, from their songs, from their pain. There was one called Ashes of Dawn, another named Silent Star, one more called Final Hope. Each ship had a voice. Each had a memory. Zenth could feel the emotions in the story. It was not just facts, it was heart. The humans wanted the Zelri to feel what they had lived. They want us to understand their soul, she said. The next part showed a battle. Not against themselves, but against an unknown threat. Strange ships attacking a human colony. The humans did not run, they fought. Their ships worked together like dancers in war, and they won. Talon said, this was recent. Their weapons are far more advanced than we guessed. Yes, Zenth replied, but they do not use them easily. They fight only when needed. The final image was Earth from space, the planet blue and calm. Lights glowing across continents, music played in the background. A human voice said, we are not perfect, but we learn. We do not seek to rule, we seek to grow. If you see us, truly see us, then we welcome you. The screen faded to black. Zenth looked around the bridge. Her crew sat in silence. No one moved, no one spoke. They had all seen the truth. They showed us everything, Zenth said. Not just their power, their pain, their hope, their reason. Talon stepped forward. She took a deep breath. We send a reply. We tell them. We see them. Later, aboard the Resolute, Commander Brooks listened to the message from the Arana. To the Terran Union, Zenth's voice said, we thank you. You did not hide. You opened. Your story. We came thinking you were new. We now see you are old in soul and young in spirit, strong in both. Brooks smiled. Jonah said, that's more than respect. That's understanding. Yes, Brooks said. And it's the start of something. Back on the Arana, Zenth stood again before the stars. We thought history made us wise, she said, but the humans showed us how wisdom grows, not just from age, but from struggle, from choice, from heart. And out in space, two ships from different worlds floated in the silence, connected not by weapons, but by the truth of a story shared. The Orana moved away from Earth's orbit, heading into the quiet edge of the system. Captain Elra Zenth stood. On the bridge, deep in thought, the Terran Union had shown them history, pain, strength, and peace. But something inside her still felt uneasy. The silence was too perfect. The ships they had seen, though powerful, might not be all there was. Talon sat at the sensor station, scanning space carefully. His hands moved with care, his eyes sharp. "Captain," he said, "I am picking up something strange near the outer system." Zenth walked over. "What kind of strange?" "Energy pulses," Talon replied, "faint but steady, like engines warming up." Too many to count, Zenth stared at the screen. Location: a group of moons beyond Neptune, hidden behind their gravity fields. "Can we send a scan?" "Already did," Talon said. "They'll know we're looking." Zenth nodded. "Good, let's see what they do." Back on the Resolute, Commander Brooks received the scan alert. "Samson," the AI spoke at once. "The Zelari have found traces of Fleet Echo." Brooks turned to Jonah. "Then let's stop hiding." "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "They've earned a glimpse." Samson opened a secure channel. Moments later, signals flew across the solar system. One by one, hidden ships powered up. Near a frozen moon, a dark ship emerged. Its shape was wide like wings, its engines glowing a soft orange. It was called Nightwolf. From behind an asteroid belt, a longer ship revealed itself. It was shaped like a blade, quiet but sharp. Its name was Veilbreaker. Above Saturn, two twin ships came out of stealth. They were smaller but fast. They danced together like stars. They were called Ember and Ghostwind. And then came the biggest one, behind the shadows of a cold planet. Something huge moved. Lights flickered across its sides. It had two long wings and a heavy center. Its name lit up slowly: Vigil. On the Orana, the crew gasped. Zenth stepped back from the screen. "So many," she whispered. "We only saw a small part before," Talon said. "This is their hidden armada." Zenth walked to the center of the bridge. She watched as more ships appeared, each different, each with a story. Some were smooth and round, shaped like water. Others were rough and sharp, built like stone. One ship had glowing patterns that moved like waves. Another had long silver fins, like a sea creature. "They don't build just for war," Zenth said. "They build like artists." The communication screen came alive. It was Samson. "You found our quiet fleet," he said calmly. "We kept it hidden, not to deceive, but to wait." Zenth nodded. "You could have shown us earlier." "Trust takes time," Samson replied. "Now we offer more. Coordinates are open. Approach as you wish." Zenth turned to her crew. "Set course. We go to meet the hidden fleet." The Orana moved slowly toward the group of Terran ships. As they got closer, Zenth could see the details better. No two ships looked the same. Every one had its own design, its own symbol. Some had names written in ancient Earth languages. Others used simple shapes or glowing light marks. One ship had wings like a bird. Another had a body like a giant fish. Yet each one gave off a silent message: "We are ready." The Orana reached the edge of the fleet. A new voice came through the channel. It was human, female.com. "Welcome to the Echo Line. You are now standing where silence ends," Zenth answered. "We come with respect. You have shown us more than power. You've shown us purpose. Then walk with us," the voice said. "Let us show you the circle." The Terran ships began to move, forming a slow path through space. The Orana followed. Each ship they passed sent a simple message. Some were greetings, some were memories. One said, "Here, we remember the lost." Another said, "We are the line between danger and dream." And one more, "This ship watched over children while their world healed." Talon said softly, "They are more than a fleet. They are stories." Zenth closed her eyes for a moment. "Yes, this is not just strength. This is identity." As the Orana reached the end of the path, Vigil loomed ahead, bigger than anything they had seen. It did not move. It waited. Lights blinked in steady rhythm. It was silent, but full of presence. Samson's voice returned. "That ship has not fired in years. but its silence keeps peace. Zenth replied, "What do you call it?" Vigil Samson said. "It watches when others rest." Zenth looked at the giant ship. She felt no fear, only a strange calm. She said, "Thank you for showing us. You listened," Samson said. "That is enough." The Arana slowed and turned. The fleet opened a path. It was time to go. As they left the circle, Talon whispered, "They do not shout, they do not show off. But they are ready," Zenth replied. "They have nothing to prove. That is true strength." Behind them, the Terran fleet returned to silence. The ships faded from sight. Lights dimmed. Engines cooled. But now, the Zellarine knew. Earth was not just a planet with people. It was a home for guardians, and the stars were listening. The Arana left the edge of Terran space slowly. Behind them, the hidden fleet of Earth faded into the dark again. Nothing chased them, no weapons followed, but the silence left behind was powerful. Captain Elra Zenth stood still on the bridge. Her hands were clasped behind her back. She was thinking deeply. Captain Talon said, "We are now outside their patrol zones." "Mark it," Zenth said. "That border must be respected." The crew nodded. Even those who had once joked about humans now sat quietly. The images of the fleet stayed fresh in their minds. Ships that looked like dreams. Ships that stood still, but seemed to speak. Zenth walked to the observation window. The stars stretched ahead like a silver path, but her thoughts stayed behind. Later, in her private room, she turned on the recorder. "Personal log," she said. "What we saw today was not only about ships or strength, it was about meaning. The humans do not speak loudly. They do not shine more than others. But they wait, they prepare, and when needed, they rise." She paused and looked out the window. Their silence is not weakness. It is warning. And their beauty is not for show. It is memory. A small tone rang. A message had arrived. It was from Commander Natalie Brooks, Captain Zenth. The voice said, "We thank you for your patience and your choice to observe, not judge. We know others might have fired first. You listened, so we answered." Zenth smiled slightly. She replied at once, "Commander Brooks, your people have earned more than respect. You have earned caution and curiosity. I hope we speak again, not as strangers, but as equals." She sent the message, then leaned back. The next day, the Arana entered neutral space. There, they met another ship from the Galactic Accord. It was a cruiser called the Emberlight. Its captain, a tall blue-skinned Harani named Velen, greeted them with warmth. "Captain Zenth," Velen said, "what news from Earth? Still crawling through space, I suppose?" Zenth did not smile. "They are not crawling, they are walking, quietly, but with force." Velen laughed. "You joke." "No," Zenth said. "I do not. We made a mistake." Velen frowned. "What kind of mistake?" Zenth answered. "We thought they were weak, but their strength does not wear armor, it wears patience." Velen seemed unsure. He looked at his crew, then back to her. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Zenth said, "and I suggest you be serious too." Later, Zenth shared the images and recordings with the Emberlight's crew. The quiet fleet, the calm voices, the massive ship Vigil. One officer dropped his cup. Another simply stared. "They don't need to shout," Zenth said, "because the galaxy listens to silence like that." Velen finally said, "We must send this to the Accord." "They need to know." "Yes," Zenth said, "but do it with care. The humans do not ask for fame, they want peace. If we turn their quiet into noise, we disrespect them." Back on Earth, Commander Brooks stood beside a wide sea on a quiet island base. She watched the waves move. A soft wind passed beside her. Samson spoke from a small drone. "The Arana has crossed into neutral space. They shared our message." "I expected that," Brooks said. "Some will laugh," Samson added. "Yes," Brooks replied, "but some will not, and those are the ones that matter." Back on the Arana, Talon walked with Zenth through the lower decks. He had questions. "Captain, do you think we will see them again?" "The humans?" she asked. "Yes, they will not hide forever." "What if others fear them? Then they will be tested," Zenth said. "But I think they are ready." She looked at Talon. "Do you fear?" "Them?" He thought for a moment. "No, I respect them." "Good," she said. "So do I." In the stars ahead, New worlds waited, new missions, new discoveries. But something had changed. The Zellery now moved through the galaxy with a new idea in their hearts. A quiet people had shown them something rare, with purpose, strength, without noise, and a voice that needed no volume to be heard. They had expected fire, but found stillness, and in that stillness they saw the shape of peace. Guarded not by words, but by warships that spoke only when they must, the Orana moved slowly through neutral space. The stars ahead were calm. Behind them, the memory of Earth and its silent fleet still followed. Captain Elra Zenth stood at the main window, arms folded, eyes distant. She had seen many things in her life, but none had stayed with her like this. A soft tone rang. Captain Talon said, "We've received a message. It's from the Terran Union." Zenth turned to the center screen. "Play it." The voice of Commander Natalie Brooks filled the room. Her tone was warm, her words careful. "Captain Zenth, the Accord, has reached out to us. They asked for a meeting, somewhere quiet, somewhere between our worlds. We have agreed. We invite you to stand beside us when that time comes." Zenth nodded slowly. "They wish us to be the bridge." Talon smiled. "It is a sign of trust." "It is more than that," Zenth said. "It is a new beginning." 1 week later, a small station was built in the quiet zone between Earth and the closest Accord world. It was called Harmony Point. Not large, not rich, but balanced. A place where voices could meet. The Orana arrived first. Then came the Resolute. Other ships followed, each from different parts of the galaxy. Vessels of the Varnaxi, Drakelin, and even the quiet-minded Hyrani. Each curious, each cautious. Inside the station, a round room waited, simple chairs, a clear dome that showed the stars above. There was no throne, no lights, no noise. Just space to speak. Captain Zenth and Commander Brooks stood side by side. They did not smile, but they nodded to each other. They knew this was the right place. The first voice came from Elder Varnavi Varnaxi. His tone was sharp. "We heard tales. We saw recordings. We came to see truth." Brooks answered, "We gave no tales, only memories." Varn blinked. "And what do you wish now? Power? Position? Only peace," Brooks said, "but a peace that sees strength." Next, the Drakelin spoke. Their speaker, a warrior named Chovik, leaned forward. "Your ships are dangerous. Your silence is deep. Should we trust a blade hidden in the dark?" Zenth answered, "Trust must begin somewhere, and it begins with listening." The Hyrani diplomat, Serral, raised her hand. "We listened. We watched. The Terrans could have attacked. They did not. They waited. That means more than words." Other voices joined. Some questioned, some doubted, but none dismissed. The message had spread, and it could not be taken back. When the meeting ended, there were no cheers, no papers signed, but no weapons raised either. And that was enough. Later that day, Zenth stood with Brooks in the docking bay. The stars above them shined through the dome. "Do you think they'll return?" Brooks asked. "They will," Zenth replied, "some with fear, some with hope. But they will return, and when they do, then we show them again," Zenth said, "who you are, not with fire, but with stillness." Brooks nodded. "Stillness is something we've learned." A small ceremony was held, not formal, just quiet words. A simple ribbon between two flags, the Terran star and the Accord sun. One child from Earth and one from Zellery stood beside each other and touched the ribbon together, a sign, not of power, but of promise. The child from Earth, a girl named Riley, looked up at Zenth. "Do you think we'll be friends?" she asked. Zenth smiled gently. "We already are." Back on the Resolute, Samson spoke to Brooks. "Our part is done for now." "No," Brooks said, "it's just begun." "You're right," Samson replied. "There will be more, but we are ready." Brooks looked at the view of Harmony Point from her screen. Ships moved slowly around it. None too close, none too far. "They see us now," she said. "Not just as humans, but as something more," Samson added. "We are not just people of Earth. We are keepers of memory, guardians of quiet." Back on the Orana, Zenth recorded one last message. "To the Accord High Table, Earth is not primitive. Earth is not lost. Earth is a voice that does not shout, but is heard. What we thought was silence was song. What we thought was weakness was rest. They were never behind. They were waiting. She closed the message and stood. Her ship turned slowly, heading back toward the stars. But the journey ahead was new. She carried a truth that many had not seen before, a truth born not in war, but in restraint. And so it began, a new accord, born in quiet, held in trust, and guarded by a warship that had once spoken only to warn, and now spoke to welcome.